Welcome back to Island Bike Life. Today, we're going to take an install and overall review look at the new Shimano XT 12-speed drivetrain. This is a relatively new drivetrain from Shimano. The XTR came out about a year and a half ago, though it was initially plagued with a lot of availability issues. This year, however, Shimano expanded that range into the XT and the very affordable SLX range. All three offer the same sort of shifting and compatibility across the range with a variety of price points based on the materials used in each of the components. Like I said, however, today we're going to be looking at the XT Groupset. This is the middle of the road, and which would be comparable roughly to the XO1 Groupset offerings from SRAM. Each of the components themselves is beautifully made, as you should come to expect from Shimano. I haven't run a Shimano drivetrain in quite a long time, but I was overall very impressed with the build quality. A lot of these components are going to look very similar to the previous XT and XTR models, with, of course, the exception being the all-new cassette. The first thing you're going to notice with these new group sets is the new Freehub standard. It's what Shimano calls their micro spline, and it is an updated version of what they had before. The primary idea behind this is that there's additional splines that the cassettes all fit onto. In the past, these splines were a little bit bigger, and over a long enough period of time, you would find some deformity, which would make removing the cassette a little bit more challenging. Visually, outside of the badging, the only thing that's going to really show up as a differentiating factor for these group sets is going to be that cassette across the SLX, XT, and XTR range. Each of these are going to be split up a little bit differently depending on the number of lower cogs you need to put together, the spacers used, and the higher end cogs are going to be a little bit different on each cassette. The XTR coming with 3 lighter materials, the XT, this one here, coming with 2, and the SLX having a single. All of that is going to affect the overall weight. And while we're on that topic, these group sets are a little bit heavier than SRAM overall, and from my testing, was within a few grams of what the stated weight was from Shimano. I didn't put those in here because, like I said, they are exactly what they were showing online, and that was within like a 5-gram range based on my own scale, which is close enough to say that the stated weights are accurate. If you've ever installed a Shimano cassette before, it's basically the exact same thing. The primary cassette is going to be in one big piece. One thing that is different between the SLX and XT and the XTR is there's a very tiny spacer that is actually affixed to the back of the cassette on this. The XTR, for whatever reason, it is separate. So if you have that, make sure you're putting this on first. Once you have the main cassette on, you want to just follow the lower cogs down. There's going to be a spacer in between each one, and on one of the tooth of each cog, there's going to be a little marking that'll indicate which way you should line it up. Though, just like the previous cassettes, they're really only going to go on one way. They are tooled so that you really can't mess it up. Where it really is important though is the very last one, which is kind of like a lock ring cog. Once that is on there, using just a standard cassette tool, tighten this down by hand. I gave it a little bit of a additional torque down with the wrench, but it doesn't require any more than like 10 Newton meters, so basically hand tight and just another quarter turn after that. The rest of the drivetrain install is basically the same way. Put your shifter up on your bar, run your cable, and connect your derailleur down to your hanger. Once your derailleur is installed, make sure that your B-gap tension is right on the tooth or the tab on your hanger, however that is set up for your particular bike. And with your cable, it is a little bit counterintuitive. The way that it routes through it is different than previous Shimano derailleurs, and it is certainly different than the way the SRAM ones are set up. So keep in mind when you're installing your cable that it is going to look a little bit different from what you might be used to. With the derailleur installed, move up to your cranks. Just like always, when you install your Shimano cranks, you're going to have their specific crank tool to tighten that spindle down. And then the 2 additional bolts that are on the drive side arm, you're going to need to torque those down as well to the amount that is stated on the crank itself. Once you have your cranks and your hub and your derailleur installed, last thing to do is to size your chain. From your front cassette ring to the largest cog, Shimano recommends 2 or 3 links depending on if you're a full suspension or a hard tail bike. Count those links off, break your chain and install the power link that is supplied through Shimano. Once you have that all installed, you're going to want to set your B gap and of course your high and low limit screws, and make any micro adjustments that you need at the barrel adjuster on the shifter. Pretty straightforward installation, and in one way a little bit easier than Eagle setups. Eagle has a B gap tool that you put onto the high jockey wheel and adjust your largest ring to match up. Shimano has this stamped right on the back of the derailleur. So it makes it a little bit easier to line up. It's one less tool that you have to have, and was a little bit quicker overall. The shifting on this group set is rock solid. I've not been on the XTR, but I have been on the SLX group set as well, and I found absolutely no difference between the two in terms of shifting performance. I suspect the XTR is going to be equally as nice and precise as well. Like I say, this group set has been out for a while now. The overall 12-speed range from Shimano for about 1.5 years, and the overall long-term consensus is that it's really pretty rock solid. So far, I can say that that has been the case. The shifting is excellent. The quality is top-notch, and I really do quite like the very precise and very distinct feel of those Shimano shifters. I haven't been on one in a while, like I said, and it really is quite nice. I really hope you like this quick look and install at the new XT group set from Shimano. If you like what I'm doing here, think about hitting the subscribe and the like button. Leave me a comment down below and come and find me on Instagram. And as always, thanks again for watching. Now let's go hit the trails.